Ciao a tutti and welcome to Italian Stories. This is a series of interviews where, together with friends and students of mine, we dive into the beauty, the comedy, and the chaos of learning Italian and living la dolce vita. Today's guest is Anthony. Anthony is an entrepreneur and content creator from the US, and today we're going to talk about learning Italian, but we're also going to talk about Italian culture and just Italy in general. Ciao Anthony, come stai oggi?
Sto bene, come stai Anna?
Tutto bene, grazie. Allora, Anthony, tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from and what brought you to Italy?
I am originally a mechanical engineer from just outside of Atlanta. But when I say that to Italians, I usually say Atlanta, so they understand me, but we pronounce it Atlanta. I studied mechanical engineering. I worked as an engineer. And then about 3 years ago, actually almost exactly 3 years ago to the day, the 21st of March, 2022, I moved to Italy. So I took a break from engineering and I moved to Italy to have a different experience. And it was partially to have a new experience, but also to get my Italian passport through my Italian ancestry. But really it was just an opportunity to do something abroad because I never lived outside my hometown. So spent a year traveling around Italy. I went to all 20 regions. And then I decided, instead of going back to the US, which was my original plan, I wanted to continue living this fantasy life in Italy. So I decided to start my own businesses. And here I am today speaking with Anna Fucito about Italy.
What do you do for work? How did you decide to do your work, which is pretty different from the original plan of being an engineer?
Yeah, so what I do now is I have two businesses. One is a Italian citizenship consulting firm with my business partner, Christina, who's a lawyer based in the US. And I personally got my Italian citizenship through my ancestry. She did as well. And we went through the processes independently and we learned a lot about it and realized that this is something we wanted to help other people achieve in a affordable way, essentially. So decided that I wanted to create my own business, and she had the similar entrepreneurial mindset. So we kind of teamed up and started helping people do that. So we help people get their Italian citizenship through what's called iure sanguinis, which is the Latin phrase for right of blood. And in addition to that, my second business is an Italy travel website called AntonyInItaly.com. It used to be called something different that was too difficult to spell, so I went with the most obvious name you could think of so nobody could misspell it. And with that, I basically create content about recommendations for travel in Italy, life in Italy, everything I've learned about traveling all around Italy and living here, sharing it with others so they have resources for knowing, how transportation works here, recommendations for cities, etc. How to use a phone here, SIM cards, all that kind of practical stuff. And then with that, I've kind of turned into this Instagram person. I'm not going to say the other word, but I do a lot of stuff on social media now to help promote both of these businesses. Yes. And I just decided to do this because I just wanted to have my life centered around Italy and be able to live here and work remotely, but also be able to help people get their Italian citizenship, help people travel in Italy, and just kind of give people good resources.
And where are you based now in Italy?
I am in Umbria.
Very cool. Why Umbria?
Umbria, that's a great question. When I moved to Italy, I applied for my citizenship to have it recognized. I had my citizenship recognized in Umbria because you apply where you have residency. And I used a company that helped me with that, and they work in Umbria. And since then, I've just stayed there.
Yeah. And what do you like about Umbria?
I love that it's very green. There's a lot of nature here, but also there's enough excitement, in a city like Perugia, where it's kind of an international city. It's a big, big town, small city. There's a university. There's a good music scene. Because it's so central in Italy, it's easy to travel around Italy.
It's a very nice region. And Perugia has very nice food, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And all the chocolate.
Great chocolate.
Yeah. Do you like chocolate?
I do love chocolate, yes.
What kind of chocolate do you like?
The darker, the better.
Okay, me too. Yeah,
So
I don't
like
like.
like like
Mm,
70%, 90%? What are we talking here?
no, like 90%.
Okay,
That could be
90 and
just
up.
pure chocolate,
Yeah.
if possible. So, Anthony, what does the process of obtaining Italian citizenship usually look like? What are the steps?
So there's a lot of steps, but at its
Hmm.
core, what it means is that if you have an Italian ancestor who was born and
Mhm,
registered in Italy, the law
mhm,
states that an Italian citizen who has a child, that child inherits the Italian citizenship from the parent. So if you are
mhm.
someone in the United States or Canada, Brazil, Argentina, which Brazil has the largest percentage of Italian
Yeah.
um, ancestry. But anywhere in the world, if you can trace your roots back to an Italian born ancestor and you can
Mhm,
prove with all the documentation that you are in fact related to this person,
mhm,
and then you can prove that if they left Italy,
mhm.
when they left Italy, if they became a citizen in the foreign country, so for example, for the
Mm,
United States, if you have a great grandparent who left Italy, came to the United States, and
mhm,
became a US citizen right
mhm,
away before they had
mhm.
kids, then that
Yeah.
would break the line. We say that's breaking the line of Italian citizenship. The specific requirement is that the person who left Italy did not become a foreign citizen, if they ever did,
Yeah.
until after their child reached adulthood. So, for example, my great grandfather came to the US in 1920,
Okay.
and he actually never naturalized as a US citizen because he died when he was young. But had he
Oh,
naturalized as a US citizen, it would have had to have been after my grandfather was 21 years old. 21 years old
okay.
was the age of adulthood at that time. And then, in terms of the process, it's getting all the birth, marriage, death certificates, naturalization paperwork to prove that you are eligible. You have it all translated to Italian, you have it all
Yeah.
certified, you present it to the Italian government. And that's what we do at my company, Become Italiani. I work with my business partner slash lawyer, Christina Prejean. We help
Mhm,
people with this whole process. And some people have no time and want somebody
mhm.
to basically handle the work for them. Or some
Yeah.
people have time, but they still need some guidance. So there's different services for what people are
Mm.
willing to spend and how much time they're willing to spend.
I see. And so, what are some of the most common challenges people face when they're applying for citizenship?
First and foremost, the challenge is, like I said, because it is so much paperwork. When you look at the list of
Mm.
requirements and you've never seen it before, it's kind of daunting. It just seems like
Yeah.
an insurmountable feat. So a lot
Yeah.
of people will just look at it and say, "I this is too complicated,"
Mm,
or
mm, mm.
they will look at it and say, "I can do this on my own." This is the sad reality. Most people have intentions to do it on their own. I hear this
Yeah.
almost every day. Somebody
Yeah.
who looks, so, oh, 7 years ago I started this process, but
Yeah.
life got in the way. The kids, the house, blah blah blah, and it's just not a priority, so they just lose steam. And then every
Mm.
year that passes, it gets harder and harder because more
Becomes
people are
harder.
learning
Yeah.
about this because the
Mm,
wait
mm,
times are getting longer and longer. So the biggest obstacle is just sticking with it because it is so much paperwork and it's a marathon. It's
mm,
not a sprint. So that's number one.
mm.
Um, and then number two is I mean, just to be frank, last year, so in October, there was a very significant change, not in the
Mm.
law, but in an interpretation of the law, which basically made a lot of people unfortunately no longer qualify because they
Okay.
changed the timeline of when your Italian ancestor, if they naturalized, um, that they changed that window. So now many people no longer qualify. So a lot of people were very far
Okay.
in the process and then just had the rug pulled out from under them, unfortunately.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's all to say, rules and
Mm.
requirements changing. That's also an
Yeah.
obstacle for people, obviously.
Okay.
Um, and then lastly, a big challenge is for those for those Italian Americans, Italian Canadians who are applying in their home country through a consulate, getting an appointment to submit your paperwork in the consulate is very hard because, like I said, more
Mm.
people are doing this every day. So the wait list is
Yeah.
getting longer and longer. So a lot of
I
people have
see.
all their stuff ready, but they just
Yeah.
don't have an appointment to submit it. It's like getting an appointment is kind of like getting Taylor Swift concert tickets at this point. But we always tell people, look, persistence is key. People get appointments all the time. And let's say the
Yeah.
process takes 4 or 5 years. Sounds like a long
Wow.
time. It's a long
Yeah.
time. Because compared to somebody in Argentina, though, it takes 10 years. Compared to
Oh, wow.
somebody who was born in Italy, I always like to give people perspective. It's like there are people
Yeah,
that I know who were born in Italy to foreign parents, like Albanians or Africans, who
yeah,
spent their whole lives here, speak fluent Italian, are more attached to Italian culture than anybody in the US.
yeah.
Because they don't have Italian ancestry, they cannot get their citizenship.
No,
And
exactly.
so
You're, mm,
it's a privilege to be able to not only have a US passport, which is already very
mhm.
strong, but now I'm going to get one that's even stronger, the Italian passport. So 5 years to me and some effort, it's a small price to pay. And it's like that 5 years is going to pass no matter what. So if you're 40 years
Yeah.
old now, you're going to be 45 no matter what. Would you rather be 45 with or without an Italian passport?
So would you say that the US is the like fastest country when it comes to getting the citizenship, the Italian citizenship?
Probably not. I don't
Okay.
have the date off the top of my head. I would bet that Canada is probably a little bit faster
Oh,
because
okay.
there's less of a concentration. But it
Okay.
also depends where in the US because there are 10 consulates in the US and some of them are faster than others. So it really depends on
Mm,
where. At the moment, to get an appointment, the fastest ones to get an appointment in terms of when it's scheduled are the
mm,
Houston consulate, the
mhm.
Philadelphia consulate, and the Los Angeles consulate. Those, when you do get an appointment, it's only a few months out. But again, getting the appointment is still hard. Versus on the
Okay.
opposite end of the spectrum, the Boston consulate, if you book an appointment today, it will be in 2030. They're 5 years out.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, so 2030 to
Yeah.
submit your paperwork, and then they have 2 years to review it. They have 24 months to review your paperwork.
Wow.
And yeah, so the fastest way to do it is to do what I did, which is get all your paperwork ahead of time and
Mhm.
move to Italy and establish
Mhm.
residency in Italy. You have to
Okay.
establish residency. It's not just your 2-week vacation on the Amalfi Coast. You have to go live in Italy, have some kind of
Mm,
lease agreement, prove your
yeah.
residency, and apply there. And that on average takes about 6 months.
So, Anthony, you started learning Italian from scratch before moving to Italy. And how did you approach it?
I started learning Italian 5 months before I moved to Italy. And I
Mm.
started, as everybody does, just with the hand gestures. That's all that matters. That's how I started. My favorite one is probably like the two-handed thing, which I can't do if I'm
Mhm.
going to hit the mic, but again, it's like, what does this mean? I don't really know, but it's a stronger version of this. It's like, just
Yeah,
say a D. It's like, what
yeah,
do you say?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's a little bit different than, the usual this one, because everyone does this one. Well, this one is
Yes,
more unique.
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
No, okay. So to actually answer your question, I started learning 5 months before,
Mm-hmm.
and I essentially, because I was not in Italy, I tried to immerse as much as I could. So the
Mm.
first and most important thing was I started doing lessons, video lessons, one-on-one with a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was a combination of grammar and conversation because my goal was to get conversational as fast as possible.
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing lessons one-on-one 3 times per week. I was also
Mm-hmm.
doing index cards, Duolingo. I think
Mm-hmm.
was I doing Babbel at the time? I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was listening to a lot of podcasts. That was a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching some series,
Mm-hmm.
anything I could that would be in Italian, where I could listen to Italian, practice speaking Italian. Also, it
Mm-hmm.
helped that before that, only a year, but a year before that, I was studying Spanish. So I
Yeah.
had a little bit of that to help
Mm-hmm.
with, and I was
Yeah.
comfortable with. To get conversational wasn't too difficult.
Yeah.
From that, it gets a big. Becomes a mess in your head if you don't have a good base in Spanish, and then you try to learn Italian. You're going to be speaking Spanish, Italian, English,
Oh, yeah.
like a
Yeah,
mix.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that did help a little bit, and so that was for
Yeah.
5 months. I did that fairly aggressively. So by the time I arrived in Italy, I was conversational, not
Mm.
not fluent, but conversational.
Mm-mm. Okay. So what level would you say? Like an A2? A2 level?
Probably A2, I think.
Ok. E quali sono le cose più difficili per te in italiano e quali sono le cose un po' più semplici, facili per te?
Le cose più difficili sono probabilmente la pronuncia. La pronuncia in italiano è molto precisa,
Mm,
nel senso che se tu dici qualcosa e hai sbagliato un po', italiani non possono capire cosa hai detto e chiedono, ad esempio, conosco qualcuno si chiama Mario, è tedesco, ma ha un nome
Ok.
italiano, Mario, e lui
Mhm.
mi fa che quando sono in Italia dico mi chiamo Mario, mi dicono che?
Mm. Mm.
Mario? Mario? Oh, Mario! Perché...
It's the same.
Lo sai. E anche,
Sì,
sì, ovviamente ci sono le cose del doppio
sì,
consonante, devi pensarci, se no dici qualcosa un po' stupido, tipo quanti anni
sì,
hai?
sì. Quanti anni hai? Sì, sì, sì. Esatto, esatto.
Sì, e ovviamente anche la grammatica, perché
Mm,
non è come in inglese così facile, tipo
mm,
I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, in italiano,
mm.
mangi, mangia, mangiato.
Posso dirti già che comunque parli bene. La pronuncia è ok, quindi.
Grazie.
Un consiglio, quando parlo italiano, vedi che io apro molto la bocca.
Sì,
Apri la bocca.
ok. Aprire la bocca, sì.
So, Anthony, are there any funny or awkward miscommunication stories?
So when I
Okay.
first moved to Italy, I was living in a tiny village in Umbria, and I ordered something on Amazon. The driver couldn't find my house because it was a borgo, so it was just a little village with tiny
Uh,
streets. So the driver had to stop his truck and like manually walk to the houses, but he couldn't
uh-huh.
find my number, so he called me. And I learned very quickly that when Italians speak on the phone, they are very curt and they speak very quickly and they have no patience. And at that time, he was just speaking so fast. And when it's only on the phone, I have no visual to go off of. So I had
Yeah,
no clue what he was saying, other than that he
yeah,
couldn't find my house, obviously. So
yeah,
I literally just, I was like, I just said, I'm sorry. I just hung up on him because I didn't know what to do. And
yeah.
then, they try again the next day if they can't make the delivery. So I was out in the street in the market and he called again. I said, here we go again. And I knew what it was. And I was running around the market. I was like asking, do you speak English? I need to get this delivered. I don't know how to coordinate this with the guy. And this really friendly woman said, yeah, okay. So she talked to him and said, just go down to that cafe and meet him there. So I met the guy and he gave me my package. It was just some towels. It was something like really
Yeah.
small. But after that, I was so embarrassed that I didn't order anything on Amazon in Italy for like a year after that. It's like I
No.
can't do this again.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting to learn Italian?
Well, speak with your mouth open more for one thing. I recently learned that. The first thing is it's so easy when you're online for everybody to say that immersion is the most important thing, and if you
Mm,
want to learn a language, you truly just have to live in that country, which
mm,
is I understand, but not everybody's in a position to move to Italy. So don't
yeah.
be discouraged if you can't. Now in 2025, there's so many ways to quasi immerse yourself. You can do conversation lessons one-on-one. You can watch Netflix has a whole catalog of things in different languages. And you can watch it dubbed or not dubbed or whatever. There's just so many ways to immerse yourself. So just surround yourself with it, even if you're not in Italy. That's the first thing. And then,
Mhm,
yeah, the one-on-one lessons are priceless. And you can do that with video. It's so easy now. If you are going to watch shows in Italian, be
mhm,
aware if what you're watching and listening to is actually Italian or if it's dialect. So if you're going to watch
mm,
Gomorra,
mm,
if you're going to
mm, mm.
watch Gomorra on HBO, that is basically 100% Napoletano,
Yeah,
which is cool and fun, but you're not going to learn that much from it. And most Italians even have to watch that with Italian subtitles because they don't
true.
understand Napoletano. If you watch
Yeah.
something like Suburra, which is like the Gomorra
Sicuro.
equivalent for Rome, that's
Yeah.
more neutral. It's still Romano, but it's not as thick
Mhm.
as Napoletano.
No, yeah, true. Yeah, no, Gomorrah is, I think it's fully in dialect.
I
I
think
think.
so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. While Subura, they use Italian and then a little bit of Roman slang, but it's not
Mhm.
fully, you know,
Yeah.
Roman.
But you can
So,
watch Gomorrah without subtitles, surely.
yeah, I can watch everything without subtitles. I can understand all the dialects. No, I actually did study many dialects because, for example, I studied Sicilian
Okay.
and I did it for uni. And then I actually did, this is something I'm very proud of actually. I helped an actor prepare for a movie. And so I helped with the Italian and the Sicilian. And so, yeah, it was super cool. I did it in London. That's what, yeah, London is great for that. You have so many opportunities, when it comes to cool projects. And yeah, so
Where was
super
this
fun.
person from?
Irish.
And they were speaking Italian for this
Yeah.
role, and you had to
Mm,
teach them some
yeah.
Sicilian.
Yeah.
How
And
did
it
that
was like,
go?
no, it was super cool because, of course, actors are so good at, doing sounds and imitating what you do. So if you tell them "ciao," they really analyze what you're doing with your mouth, no, and they can copy the sound in a way that a normal person cannot do, no. And so I would say the same word over and over and over again, and then he would just get it.
Wow.
And also, I would say the word, and then he would ask me to say the word, but with an emotion, which was difficult for me because I'm not an actor. But let's say the word "ciao," okay, and then he would be like, "Oh, do it in an angry way, do it in an excited way," and then so he would, he would learn how to say the word, and then he would give emotions to that word,
Wow.
and super cool, super cool.
That's really cool. What is your favorite Italian dialect?
I like the Roman dialect a lot. I also like Neapolitan because it is a mix of many languages.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit of Greek, a little bit of Latin, there's a little bit of Spanish as well. Also Arabic influences, because we had also the Arabs there. So
Hmm.
it's just super cool. And because I studied Latin, I mean, Latin and ancient Greek in high school, I could recognize a lot of words. Same with Spanish. Arabic, I don't speak it, but maybe in the future.
You're very impressive, Anna. So you
Uh-huh.
spoke, you spoke, you speak Latin?
So the way you study Latin in high schools in Italy, we don't learn how to speak the language. We learn how to translate and read the language. So I can read Latin and I can
Okay.
translate it for you, but yeah, I wouldn't be able to speak Latin.
Okay.
Anthony, you told me in the past that you identify more as American than Italian American. Can you explain why?
I definitely identify more as American for two main reasons. One is that I grew up in the South. I grew up
Mm,
in Georgia, which is pretty far from the Italian American cultural center of the US, which is largely the Northeast. So
mm,
my family's from Massachusetts, so the whole New England area, and then, New Jersey, New York. It's just the culture up there is very strong. And
mm.
my father moved away from his family, so I grew up in the South. So I'm definitely a redneck. I sound like a red. No, I'm not. I don't really have a Southern accent, but I grew up pretty far from that culture, so I didn't really have that much of the cultural upbringing. I didn't know anybody who spoke Italian.
Mm.
If you go in the Northeast, you meet not really Italian Americans that speak Italian, but there's at least some Italian immigrants there that will speak
Yeah.
Italian, or there's maybe first generation
Okay.
Americans whose parents were born in Italy, so you can be more exposed to it. I didn't have any of that. To the
Yeah.
extent that I had an Italian American upbringing was that we would do family dinners every Sunday with my parents and my
Mhm.
sister. That was largely influenced by my mom, who is not Italian. It's all about family. And then we probably had more pasta than the average family around me. Like we would have pasta probably at least once a week, and it was always really good because my mom learned the recipe from my dad's father. So she
Mhm.
kind of adopted a lot of that cooking
Yeah.
as well, which is like the Italian American cooking, which is derived from Naples and Sicily, Southern Italian
Mm.
stuff from 100 years ago. So I had a bit of that.
Yeah.
And but I feel very American, not just because of that, but also after moving to Italy, I realized that I'm very American. Even if you
Mm.
identify as Italian American, when you come, again, this is my experience. I'm not saying this
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody, but I think it's most people that are Italian
Mm.
American. If they go to Italy, they will probably drop the Italian card pretty quickly. When you move to Italy, or even if you spend 2 weeks here on vacation, you realize, okay,
Mm.
Italian culture is its own thing. Italian
Yeah.
American culture is also its own thing. It is
Yeah.
separate. It is neither American or Italian. Italian American is its own little bubble of different stuff. It's this combination of American and old Italian from the 1930s. It's not Italian at all. And being here, I realized just culturally, I'm American. I dress American. I act
Mm.
American.
Mhm.
I don't think about food all the time. I think
Yeah.
about food a lot of the time, but it's
Yeah.
not it's it's a fun conversation. Italians can
Mm.
talk about food for an hour and I'm good for about like 20 minutes and I'm like, okay, what else we got? Can we it's like how many different pastas? Okay, this is interesting up until a point. Oh, this pasta's bigger. Now the sauce goes inside the pasta. Oh, amazing. Okay. And then you realize all these things when you move here. You realize like this is its own culture and it's so strong.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's just so many different. If you grow up in the U.S., which is a very capitalist, consumerist culture,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist as much here. It does
Mm.
exist, but especially the the constant drive to be thinking about like work
Yeah.
culture in the US is very strong. In Italy
Yeah.
it's not a priority. It still is there,
Yeah.
but it's not the center of people's lives. It's just a piece of
Mm.
people's lives and it's a means to have a comfortable life.
True. Even if I think about myself, generally the reaction that people have when I tell them what I do, which is I'm a content creator and I have my own business, it's not positive. People are not like, oh wow, that's so cool, which is
Mm,
generally what Americans tell me. Italians, the general answer would be, why aren't you a public school teacher?
mm,
This is like, generally what you would do, which is a more, it's an easy life compared to having a business, of course, because
yes.
you just have to go to school. Of course, it's not like you don't work, but I don't think it's as complicated as it is
No,
no having a business.
working for yourself is so demanding.
Yeah.
And it looks like what we do is just like make videos online.
Yeah.
And we just sit around and just record ourselves and post it and get likes and blah blah blah. But it's so
Hmm.
much work.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, whether it's creating content or you open a store, working for yourself is just so different. Just to get a
Yeah.
job working for somebody else is so easy. Like you said, you
Yeah.
just show up. That's 90%. You just show up. For us, we can't just show up. We have to
Yeah.
actually make things.
It's way more complex. Okay, so Italians often have strong opinions about Italian Americans. So what has your experience been like?
As an Italian American, for me, I don't lead with the fact that I'm Italian American. If people say, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm American, sono americano."
Yeah.
And then they ask my story. Why are you here? One thing leads to another. I'm here because I came to get my citizenship. So yes, I have Italian ancestry
Mm-hmm.
from Salerno,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't they don't really care, to be honest.
Mm.
It's not like you say you're Italian American and like, oh, mamma mia, vieni a casa mia, facciamo una it's not like they just welcome you with open arms. That does happen in some rare cases. If you know somebody in your ancestral town, you go that may happen. But
Yeah.
usually that is not. Usually they don't think, oh, you're one of us. That does not happen. But they also aren't hostile towards you. They're not like, oh, you're just a wannabe Italian. It's just like, oh, you're Italian American, cool, basta.
Mm.
That's it. What I see a lot online is there's a lot in the space that we're in, which is Italian. We probably have very similar algorithms. Anytime you see Italian Americans, like there's like the Italian American podcast or the Growing Up Italian guys, they get a
Mm.
lot of hate because they are looked at as like posers, as being Italian, pretending to
Mm.
be Italian. And it's
Mm.
just a question of semantics. It's like it's just easy to say growing up Italian versus growing up Italian American. It's just too
Yeah.
clunky of a name. They know they're Italian American. They know they're not Italian. They do
Yeah.
speak Italian. We speak kind of a version of like Sicilian.
Mm.
Those guys are like Napoletano dialect kind of, but
Mm.
they know that they are their own subculture. I've met some of those
Mm.
guys. They
Mm.
know that they're their own culture. They're not trying to be Italian. They know they're
Mm.
not Italian, but they
Mhm.
also know they're very different from American.
Mm.
So it's just they get a lot. All the hostility that you see,
Mm.
that Italians think Italian Americans are jokes, that basically, in my experience, only exists in Instagram comment sections. I don't see that in real life. If people have those opinions, they withhold them in person because people maybe just want to be nice. But nobody gives me shit for being Italian American and calling
Mm.
myself Italian. I don't know. Do you
Mm.
see the same thing?
Um, what you see, unfortunately, what you see in the comments, They say it. They say it like, they also told me these things.
Is the problem that they have with Italian Americans, or the image of
The image, yeah, the image,
social media Italian
yeah,
Americans, which
yeah, yeah,
is not saying it's all fake, but everybody has
yeah,
a little bit of persona. They wear the funny clothes, they wear the
yeah,
glasses that are the Italy
yeah,
flag colors.
yeah,
Okay, I get it. It's a bit campy and silly. And in fact, when I went and met some of these guys in New York, I was kind of expecting, like, here I go, I'm going to walk in and they're going
the
to be wearing like,
outfits, yeah,
but they did have some of that, but it's a bit, it's their shtick. They know that they're putting on a thing
yeah,
because
mm-mm-mm-mm.
they're aware that it's silly and it's ironic, but
Yeah,
they're actually like very smart, well-educated people that are very
mm-hmm.
friendly and very, very
Yeah.
proud of their culture. And they would argue that we're more proud of our Italian heritage than you Italians are.
Mm. That's true. Yeah, well, 100%. Because if you're Italian, you just don't really think about it. I'm Italian,
Right.
fine.
The Italian American, like all that stereotype, all that campiness comes
Mhm.
from a pride in the culture. And it
Yeah.
comes from a culture that has a lot of idiosyncrasies. Italian culture is a very unique culture. There's a lot of
Mm.
funny things about it. And I say funny literally. Like Italians kind of make it easy for themselves to be made fun of. And some people capitalize on that, like the Lionfield guys. I forget the
Mm.
names, like Matteo and whatever. Like basically, they've made a career out of somebody breaking spaghetti in half and somebody else getting mad,
Yeah.
or somebody putting pineapple on a pizza and somebody getting mad. That
Yeah.
is like 80% of their content, and they know
Yeah.
that, and they just keep pushing that button because
Yeah.
they know every day they get 100,000 more followers, and
Yeah.
now they have it at school and blah blah blah, all this stuff. So,
Yeah.
and I could look at that and say, you guys are doing a caricature of Italian culture. This is not real.
Yeah.
It's like Italians
Yeah.
don't only complain about breaking spaghetti in half. There's so much more to the culture than that. You guys are
Of course.
making this fake version of it that now when I see that living here, and I know that a large part of their audience are Americans or foreigners that probably have never been to Italy, they think Italy is this weird confection of this crazy pasta breaking
Yeah.
Nazi
Yeah. Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
It's like it's not just this. Italians have actual depth to them. And that's
People have this idea of Italians that doesn't really reflect the reality. And also you have to consider that especially the new generation is so just influenced by social media. And that means that we're all becoming the same. We're also losing the culture. Like,
yes.
I'm sure that the new generations, I think you can already see it. No, they don't dress formally. They're not always
Yes.
elegant, like, for example, my generation.
I can put a
Or
suit on if you want. Do you want me to
if you
put?
want, you can go. I'll
Okay,
just
I'll
put
wrap
here.
it.
Look how elegant I am right now. I'm not.
I feel like I put out a lot of content about maybe not putting Italian Americans in the most positive light, but I don't really think that they're. Again, it's a naming thing.
Mm.
They are their own culture and they know it. And they're separate from Italian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to come off as a snob, and so I feel like I do have to defend the Italian Americans that
Mm-hmm.
are really trying to preserve this.
Yeah.
They're really trying to preserve their culture. Call it whatever you want. Call it Italian, Italian American. They're
Mm.
just trying to preserve whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because somebody has to, especially in the U.S. If we just lost that,
Yeah.
it'd be a shame.
And so, what's something you love about living in Italy, and something you don't love?
What I love is something very practical. I love that there is public transit. And I know a lot of Italians that hear that and think, oh, but in Italy it's terrible. The trains are always late and the buses, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's fine. It's imperfect. But where I'm from, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's basically no buses. The trains almost don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to go to Rome,
Mm-hmm.
I can be at Rome in 2.5 hours, and I have at least 8 options a day to get to Rome on a train. That just doesn't exist in here. So I really appreciate that it's just so easy to get around here relative to where I'm from. Also, what I really like is the emphasis on social community here. And when I say social community, really what I mean is relationships with friends.
Yeah.
When I tell people that in the US, for me, my best friends, we see each other when, let's say, pretend I'm living in the US, I would
Mm-hmm.
see my best friends once or twice a month. In Italy, that's unheard of, to see your friends
No,
that
no.
infrequently. You would see your friends, oh, I saw him yesterday and we're getting
Oh yeah.
coffee this afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Like
like,
you
because
call
you,
them the same day, yeah, and you say, "Let's meet tonight." And, okay, fine.
yeah, let's meet tonight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, people just want to be together more here. And
Yeah,
also logistically, a lot of people can just walk to meet up. I can call my friends right now and we can
yeah.
both walk to the same coffee shop in 5 minutes. And that's just
Mm-hmm.
very hard to do in the US unless you live in a big city. But if you live in a
Yeah.
big city, it's hard to get from one point to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody
Mm-hmm.
can afford to live in big cities in the US. So I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that it's very easy to get people together. And it's
Yeah.
also really great to, even in a small town, you can still feel kind of urban, in that you can walk around, like you walk from one side of town to the other, and you're going to bump into people that you know, and you just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, let's get a coffee, and you just catch
Yeah.
up, and all of a sudden you have this great conversation, and
Yeah.
the sun's out, so you go sit in the piazza with your friends
Yeah.
and chat. It's just all these happenstance things that
Yeah.
just doesn't happen in the US because we're all isolated in our cars,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. um so those things, and obviously, Italy, the food is amazing, the architecture
Yeah.
is amazing, the landscape. What I love about Italy is just it's for such a small country that's smaller than California, but there's such a variety in the language and the
Mm-hmm.
landscape, and
Yeah.
even the food. The food changes so much when you go north to south and east to
Yeah.
west. There's just, that is really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And something you
things I
don't love?
Something I don't love. I mean, obviously, I wish all my family and friends were here. That would be
Mm,
amazing.
yeah.
Um, Culturally speaking, I wish there was a bit more diversity in the food.
Mm,
I'm contradicting what I just said, which is that there's a lot of variation in the food, but
mm-hmm.
let's be honest, it's largely some versions of pasta,
Mm,
bread,
mm,
pizza. You find that everywhere. Like 80% of restaurants are some version of those three things. And of course, you could be, oh, you need to go to
yeah.
Trentino Alto Adige and go have
Yeah.
polenta and go to Piemonte and Torino and find all these different things. Yes, I know.
Mm,
But the standard, it's harder to find more international food.
true.
Like maybe I want Vietnamese food, maybe I want Mexican
Yeah.
food or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Japanese. And those, you can find those.
Mm,
Not Mexican food. Italy can't do that well. But that is changing with the younger generation.
yeah.
They're a lot more open to different foods,
True.
international
Yeah.
food, which I really
Yeah.
like. And then everybody complains about the bureaucratic processes, but that topic's has been worn out. Yeah, things
Yeah.
move slow here,
Yeah. It's
but
just slower.
if you have that expectation, it's not going to be as efficient. For me, I'm a pretty patient person. Yes, I've had
Mm,
my headaches, and maybe I've just been lucky, but
mm,
yeah, that's, you take your good with your bad. Of course, I wish things could be more efficient, not just for my own selfish needs, but also for the country. I wish that the country could run better so that
yeah.
there'd be more jobs and young people wouldn't be moving away and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's a problem. We talked about it so much. In general,
Yeah.
it's the main problem in Italy. Do you see yourself staying in Italy long term?
Yes. Up
Okay.
until when my parents get older and I want to be close to them,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll probably go back at some point.
Okay.
But for now, I'm here, and I'll be
Yeah.
here for a while. And um, I hope to die in Italy. Not
Oh
anytime
wow.
soon. No, I
Okay.
do
Yeah.
see myself living out my years here in Italy.
Mm,
Yeah, why not?
okay. Do you have friends in Italy? How's your social life in Italy?
I do have friends. I
Mm-hmm.
found it's hard to make friends here,
Yeah.
especially Italian friends,
Mm,
because Italians tend to be pretty attached to their social groups and their cliques, especially in
true. Yeah.
smaller towns when they've
Mm-hmm.
known each other for a decade or more. They're not
Yeah.
quite open to bringing in new people. Some of them are,
Mm,
some of the more
mm,
international ones that have lived
mm-hmm.
abroad. But the ones that have
Mm-hmm.
always lived in Italy, they don't really know how to
Mm,
bring new people into the group very quickly. So that's challenging. So my
mm,
friend groups are a combination of other foreigners,
mm,
Russians, Americans,
mm,
a couple of Canadians, and
mm,
then a lot of Italians as well.
Okay. And how did you meet these people? Because I think you work online, no? You work from home, so how did you meet these people?
I would just literally just go out by myself if I'm
Oh yeah.
somewhere new. I basically would just go out in town and just
Mm,
try to find events. Like I'm a
mm.
musician. Well, no, I play music for fun sometimes.
Ah,
I'm not a musician,
yeah.
but I would go to like open mics or jam sessions and meet
Mm,
people there, find people with common
yeah.
interests, or like just go to bars. And
Yeah.
it's shocking if you start drinking with strangers, everybody becomes very friendly, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you make connections. And I have one friend in particular here that owns a bar, and he knows everybody in town. So through him, I've met probably 90% of my friends here.
Mm, 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 mm.
Um, and then I have friends kind of throughout Italy because I travel around quite a bit, and I've
Mm,
met people, and I try to stay in touch and go back and visit
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's just
Nice.
most of them are just from going out and meeting people
Going out.
the
Okay.
old-fashioned way.
Yeah, no, interesting because of course, I lived in many places, so I'm always curious about how people make friends because I have my strategies. Um,
Say
yeah, like
that like you got some tricks. What are your strategies for making friends? You
no,
buy
the
them
tricks.
ferns.
No, I think if you're a woman, you cannot do what you do, which is just, I think, like go out in a bar or like a pub or whatever, because it's can be a little bit unsafe if it's a new city. You don't really
Yes.
know what's going to happen. So I personally use apps and like Facebook groups. Sometimes also just content creators that do the same thing as I do.
Mhm.
That's another good way to make friends. And yeah, sometimes like I go to the gym, and if it happens, you talk to a girl, and then maybe you say like, "Oh, shall we just go and have a beer or something together?" And yeah, so
You ask them if they like
mainly online.
ferns. You go fern shopping together. Go get your posh ferns and house plants together. So you've met a lot of people through your work, through online creator type stuff that you've actually become
Uh,
friends with.
I know some teachers.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and they've become friends, like very good friends. So yeah, yeah. But they're all far away. So sometimes I just like travel to go see them, or
Yeah. How did you
mm,
decide to get started? Were you hesitant at first to get started with social media? Because now you have a big presence. Were you resistant at first, or did it just feel natural?
no, it felt natural because I've always been used to performing because I grew up dancing. So I was on stage since I was like 5.
Hmm.
So I actually always liked being like seen by people because with of course with ballet people are looking at you, and it's weird because when I was little I was actually very shy, and then I would just transform. I would like turn into this character when I was on stage, and then because I believed in that, I'm not shy anymore because
Mm.
yeah, so it's just the performing. And then I did ballet, and then when I was like 18 I joined like a theater company, and I was doing also some like very very easy acting as well. So yeah, that is not something that I struggle with, just being in front of the camera and
Hmm.
performing. And yeah, so no. Do you struggle being in front of the camera and taking videos and being so exposed?
Does it look like I'm struggling with it?
No.
Okay, good. No, it's yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
Mm,
Sometimes I don't always like watching my stuff back. I don't like what I
yeah.
don't like I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like
Mm,
faces that I make or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm comfortable with it, and I've gotten used to. I don't get that much hate. Like it
Mm,
depends. Sometimes I do, but you just get used to it. You kind of just turn
yeah.
it off. It just becomes noise.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with it, and I found that it's a great way to form thoughts, meaning like to create content and have to make it in a way that's that's digestible in a 90-second Instagram reel. If you're trying
Mm.
to like convey a lot of information in a short amount of time, it really makes you kind of be a perfectionist with wordsmithing and everything.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's
mm,
been a
mm.
good challenge because it kind of makes you a good storyteller because you've
Mm.
crafted things over and it's like you're doing it with when you're teaching languages. You have
Yeah.
to teach a concept or at least
Yeah.
give the basics of a concept in a short video, and it has to be entertaining. If it's not
Mm.
entertaining, that's over. Nobody's going
Yeah.
to watch it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true, especially with short form content. You really need to, think about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and it has to be informing. It has to be entertaining. So it's a very good thing for us. I think everyone should do content, even if you don't post it. It's a very good exercise for your brain, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, especially because you can see how you're doing. Like if you're a musician or an actor or something,
Yeah.
record yourself and watch it back, and then you can see
Yeah,
your
yeah.
weaknesses.
If someone is considering moving to Italy, what's your biggest piece of advice?
Don't move to Italy.
Don't move to Italy.
Terrible. No, my my biggest piece of advice for moving to Italy is obvious, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking with an Italian teacher, but learn the language, at
Yeah.
least parts of it. I mean, your experience, we talked about this before, but it'll go so much further if you learn Italian. If you come here and you only speak English and you just find other expats and you only hang out with Italians that speak English, it'll be fun. You'll still learn a lot, but your cultural experience will be very limited if you don't learn Italian. Also, just practically speaking, there'll be situations where you have to speak Italian, and you'll be very frustrated if you can't. But again, it's so rewarding to just travel around Italy and be able to speak with locals, and it's an amazing experience. Like if you watch your favorite travel shows of people traveling around and like connecting with locals, I mean, you can live that. And if you can speak the language, you can do it without having a translator between you and those locals. It's just you, and it's really amazing. So yeah, definitely learn the language, start doing lessons one-on-one. Don't just fall into the trap of kind of the Duolingo style learning where you're only doing like exercises, because you can trick yourself into thinking you're really good. It's like, oh, I know all this vocab.
Yeah.
Like whether it's Duolingo, I'm not just saying Duolingo, but all these methods of just learning vocab and reading a sentence and knowing what it means, it's all great. But then once you start talking, it's like a different piece of your brain. The conversation, you'll just fall on your face. So do all that stuff plus lessons with a person talking, because your brain has to learn to work in real time, and that takes some time to develop.
No, it's true. But also, if you have Italian friends and you don't speak the language, you will miss like basically 50% of that person, I think, at least.
Yes.
Because like now we're speaking English, but like if I was speaking Italian with you, I would have a completely different personality, and probably you will get to know me even more. Because it's as if there is like a little like filter between me and you when I'm speaking English.
Yes, but your English is at such a high level. I feel like I'm getting most of you.
No, that's true, but there's something, I don't know, like different, about speaking your native language.
Of course.
Even the words that that my brain selects when I speak English are not the words that I would use in Italian.
Right.
And especially, or like if I want to say something that is a bit deeper, I'm totally able to say it in English. Totally. But I don't know, there's like something when I want to talk to, to someone and I want to be more rational, I use English.
Because it slows it like...
Yeah. There's like a little filter. While in Italian, all my emotions just like, go. Also because, I like, for me, Italian is like the language that I grew up with, and it's connected to my, family and my crazy family and my crazy friends. And so, it's like,
Yes,
Is that,
yes.
like irrational side of Anna, while English is like more productive Anna, more, like adult Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself coming back to Italy long
Oh,
term?
yeah. Yeah. I will probably retire in Italy. I'll probably retire in Italy for sure. But yeah, I mean, I've always had this desire to just be around the world. And I like new challenges all the time. So for me, Italy is very comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when I go back to Italy, I'm totally fine. I'm so comfortable. Everything is familiar. It's my native language. It's super easy. And I don't think I like easy. So that's why.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of places you could go to challenge yourself, maybe in
Yeah,
ways you don't want to be challenged. But do you feel like Portugal was a challenge?
a little bit because it's still a foreign country.
Mm.
Less challenging than China for sure.
How
But
much time did you spend in China?
around 1.5 years when I was like an adult. But then my dad used to live in Shanghai when I was, I think, 13. So we would go to Shanghai.
Is that when you started learning Mandarin?
No. I started when I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Va bene, Anthony. Allora, grazie mille per questa intervista e ci vediamo presto.
Sì, certo. Grazie Anna e ci vediamo e grazie per l'intervista e tutte le domande. Hai fatto benissimo. Sei molto brava Anna.
Grazie.